Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome back, family, friends, fellow cannapreneurs. Welcome to the Cannabis Community Project, here for another weekly podcast from the CCP studios high up in Denver, Colorado. Here exploring the business side of this newly emerging Colorado economy, focusing on the business, the patient, the retailer, to the geek in the garage creating that next innovation. This is the first media platform to help fellow cannapreneurs just like you build sustainable businesses while living the lifestyle. Remember, I'm creating a sponsor store where right from the website, every business that you've heard about, every product that we've talked about, right from the website, as you're listening to my show, you're going to be able to view a page called Sponsor Store where you will see every product and service that we've brought through the community. You know, the Cannabis Commodity Exchange is a great product for other dispensaries, but how does the individual relate? How does the individual cannapreneur out there get involved in our sponsors, CCX? Well, I'll tell you, they have a product called the Skunk Box. The Skunk Box is for any herb connoisseur. Why? Because it's the premier herbal humidor. Skunk Box increases the quality of your favorite herbs and saves you money by making them last longer. Store your favorite herbs for weeks without them drying out and losing their flavor and potent scent. Restore dried out herbs in just a few days and bring back the odor, flavor, and texture you love. Keep your herbs and accessories safe in the water-resistant, dust-proof, and odorless container, whether you're home or on the go. It's customizable, and here in Colorado, it's a locking container that is for when you are leaving centers or dispensaries with your product. You now no longer have to pay those few bucks for those cheap Ziploc bags that they're making you buy. Check them out on the Cannabis Community Project sponsor store, the Skunk Box, presented by the Cannabis Commodities Exchange. There you have it, the Skunk Box by CCX. Hey, if you got a product, you got a business, you got something that you want to advertise or promote through this show, contact me via Facebook or email. If you have my number, just give me a call or a text message. Hey, you remember last week's show? Very personal and sad and happy and tragedy and triumph. We had Ashley Weber, advocate, mother, quadriplegic, working hard to design life on her terms, even though life gave her something a little different. It was a great show, and I hope you all had a chance to hear it, and if you didn't, I encourage you to go back and check it out. It has a lot of other great stuff in there. We also have Alex Whiteplume that was giving us a few words from the Hemp Awards a few weeks ago. Let's take a few minutes, just in case you didn't hear it, to go back to last week's short-term memory flashback relapse, and then we'll move on to this week's show. Here we go.
I'm going to make you sound good.
Because I tend to ramble a lot.
Why the sudden and rapid shift to the industry just a couple of years ago?
The Westward has done a really good job with their story. From when I was 18 up until the win of the case.
But if somebody searches the Westward website for you.
Knowing it is the devil's lettuce. Like, it was, you look at it and you're going to hell.
The devil's lettuce?
The devil's lettuce.
Where are you from? That's funny. I've never heard that before.
Wiggins, Colorado. Yeah, it's from, like, the nerve pain.
Right.
And So the signals are trying to get to the brain and they can't quite get there because of the pathways in the spinal cord. It's a very tingly feeling. Oh, it helped in a way that I can't even describe it.
How did you first consume it? Was it a big event? Was it a ceremonial thing? It's just like this.
It was kind of like, I wasn't feeling very good. I was having hyperreflexia. And
What is that?
That's where your body, if you have a spinal cord injury, not only the neurogenesis that comes along with it, I have received more function in my triceps ever since I've been in a whole plant oil.
Physical movement. So.
In my triceps, I've felt a lot more movement. So the littlest things make the biggest difference. I just see that with so many things happening right now and how occur a lot of my own research. And whenever I found out I was going to be having a baby, I did a lot of research and there wasn't anything out there.
Is there anybody else?
There is. Actually, there was a documentary done on TLC and it was called Paralyzed and Pregnant. She struggled worse than I did. Every injury and every spinal cord injury is different. I have feeling in some places it's about patient health care, and with patient health care, not only everybody's like, oh, I'm on cannabis oil, I'm fine. I'm never going to get cancer. It's not just about taking cannabis oil. It's about your lifestyle. It's about eating. It's about exercising. And
Eat a high dose of edibles. You get a little panicky sometimes.
All right, here's a piece of advice. Always carry around a CBD pill.
A CBD pill to immediately counteract it?
Yep, if you're ever feeling too stoned.
Like a cyanide pill?
That's what I wanted to write the lady.
Break the bottle.
And people are afraid of the butane extraction and that kind of stuff because they think you're inhaling too much butane when you're dabbing.
Not if it's cooked right.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that vaporizing gives you a somewhat concentrated.
Well, no, I understand what you're saying because even the first pull that you get is different from the second pull that you, because you can run it, the different compounds. I think there's 66 cannabinoids, right?
You tell me. You're the researcher. You're the scientist. Not me.
I'm going to have to go get my book.
I'm just a podcaster. I just got questions. I don't have any answers.
I wish I had all the answers. Doesn't everybody?
I think if you keep talking and people hearing from you, you'll come up with a lot of answers. I think we should keep talking.
Last week's short-term memory flashback relapse with Ashley Weber, giving us her personal story and learning all about the life of a great person. Check her out, Ashley Designs LLC. Check out her Facebook page. Look her up. Google her, Ashley Weber. Hey folks, I'm glad to be doing this show this week, talking with a lot of great people every week, talking to more and more businesses, meeting new people, networking, connecting. I'm so happy when I get emails from people asking for emails and contact information of other people they heard on the show because they want to hook up and do business. This is what it's all about for me. It's just being in the center of it. You know, last week I had an incident happen in my life that really confirmed that I'm doing the right thing. You know, I work my own companies and have a few jobs here and there, part-time jobs that I do. And in the midst of it, I decided to reach out and see what's out there in the open market and apply for a job. Job right up my line with education and experience and the whole deal. And I got the attention of a local company in town, a health provider company, that liked my resume. They called me in. We did an interview. They called me back. We did another one. And then they make me an offer. A decent offer. Nothing great, but nothing bad. It was a decent offer for the position itself and everything else. Definitely would have been a good, stable position for what my family is getting ready to experience somewhere towards the end of May. Another few months down the road. So I thought I would get a job that provided a little bit of stability as I worked on my show here. Well, they loved me and they made me a job offer. I signed the contract and then they pull out well, we need you to take a UA. I said, okay, no problem at all. what are you testing for? And they said, we're only testing for things that are illegal. I said, are you testing for alcohol? And they said, no, that's because alcohol is not illegal. But of course, you cannot show up to work drunk, just as anything else, as our policy. I say, great, give me the form, I'll sign it, I'll be on my way, I'll go take the test, we'll get this job started. So I go down to the clinic, and I casually ask the nurse, can I see the list of substances you're testing for? And there it was, number one on the list, a very much legal substance in the state of Colorado for not just medicinal uses through holding a card or a license, but also for recreational uses for anyone over 21, just like alcohol. Matter of fact, in our state, we have a law that uses language of regulated like alcohol. I told the nurse, I'm sorry, I cannot take this test. You're testing for things that are legal, and I was informed by my employer, or potential employer, that you would not be testing for legal substances, only illegal substances. And she said, well, I'm sorry, that's just part of the protocol. Take it. We won't pay attention to it, but you need to take it. Well, this was a decision I had to make. What do? Do I document my use to my employer? I mean, they're going to have on record not just a yay or nay, but they're going to have numbers of quantities, and it's going to force me to divulge, am I a recreational or medicinal user? And if I'm a medicinal user, I'm going to have to divulge what's going on and why I'm needing the medicinal use to aid my ills. Well, I didn't want to do that, so I politely declined, and I said, I will take your other ones that you're looking for, the cocaine, the PCP, the barbiturates, the opiates, PCP. Are you kidding me? After meeting with them for 3 interviews in a shirt and tie and talking about details of their corporation, they're then going to question my PCP use? Anyways, I'm getting off track because we're not talking about illegal substances. We're talking about the legal ones they wanted to test for. So I declined. And within 12 hours, the next morning, I had the message come down. If you do not take the test, the job does not exist. We are withdrawing the offer based on your refusal to take the test. I truly do smile and laugh because it's a gracious thank you for saving me from a potentially horrible organization that I would have dedicated my skills and talents to make it a better, more profitable, and ultimately larger organization. But now I do not have to waste my talents, and they do not get to grow bigger based on my talents to spread like-minded thoughts amongst the community about how to treat employees with what they do in their personal time with legally ordained substances. So that's the turning point for me that says the only future left in my future is the future of cannabis. I got nothing else because at this point there's no hiding it. I do a weekly show, I have web pages, social media, I'm all over the place. Anybody that Googles me will find the connection. I can't hide it, so which means I can only embrace it. I can only become even deeper embedded in it. The media, the radio, the station, this is just the beginning. This is the Cannabis Community Project, which encompasses all things cannabis. The media is the nexus point for which the communication and the messages flow, how we meet and network and speak to the public and the audience and bring together like-minded individuals. But the community is you. You are the cannabis community, and this is the project. Can we make our lives better, despite the fact that because of what we choose to be involved with, probably has made our lives worse up to this point. But now is the time. Now is the time. Join me, the Cannabis Community Project. Here's what we're going to do this week. For all those who want to show their support, I have a quarter of free product, a flower bud of a good quality strain. I'm going to give it away for free to one person out there this week, and possibly every week give out a free one. But I'm going to give it away to the first person to contact me with the best story, recorded, written, whatever you want to do, about your reason to rebel and your reason to be part of the Cannabis Community Project.
Class, come to order, please. We are very privileged today to have a very special guest in our room. And Mr. Stadenko is a narcotics officer. That's better, class.
Thanks to all of our sponsors, and this week we're highlighting Dairy Berry's recording studio. Find him at dairyberriesrecordingstudio.com or call Mark at 303-456-8216.
Sex.
My name is Larissa Bolivar, spelled Larisa, last name B as in boy, Oli, V as in Victor, AR. I'm Executive Director of the Cannabis Consumers Coalition. Our tagline is My Voice, My Choice, and we advocate for consumer rights. So we're a cannabis consumer watchdog organization. But we're doing more advocacy work for individual consumers in the realm of public safety, quality assurance, quality control, education. We're really big on education. One of the things that I always say that our founding principle was that we believe that consumers make the market, not job creators, because we have a demand and they need to meet that demand. And so I believe that the consumer is who we should be looking at for all of our guidance on setting industry standards. So we look for things like pesticide use, chemical use, we're anti-GMO, anything that's going to impact the consumer and the decisions that they make. We are actually a national organization. I founded the organization 420 after conversation with several people. We were going to the Capitol and either testifying or sitting in on testimonies, and we noticed that in the marijuana industry, all the lobbyists were lobbying only on behalf of industry and not on behalf of consumers. So I wanted to raise our level of awareness within the hemp industry so that they know that they have a consumer voice for people that were coming here to get information, because we do advocate for the hemp industry and also putting controls in the industry similar to like the agricultural regulations to meet the same standards that they have to meet or more. So really just to raise our level of awareness and educate people about who we are and how we can help them. This is the first event of this kind. It's the first Industrial Hemp Awards and Festival. I have to say that I have 14 years in the marijuana movement itself, and I did open one of the first dispensaries in the state. And that's kind of where the idea came from this, because I was very individual focused then, and we continue to do so now. Which also another thing that we have launched is so this is a 501c3. We have just initiated a 501c4, which is going to be our political arm, and that's called Cannabis Caregivers Alliance.
Get the taste, KG. Okay.
That is Mark and it rocks. It's a rock block of bark that he learned in the school called the School of Hard Knocks.
Here we go, another member of the community, the CCP community, coming to Colorado, relocating from Southern California to bring his talents, his skills, and his business right here to the heartland. Denver, Colorado. Here's an individual who's bringing a professional business side. I'm going to let him explain it because I don't want to confuse it. I don't want to make you think he's a recruiter. I don't want to make you think he's this or that or some kind of employment agency. That is not actually what it is. I sat down for over an hour and we talked about his business and his ideas, but I'm going going to let him explain it. I just want you to know that there's people just like this every day coming. The cavalry is coming to Colorado. They're coming to set up accounting businesses, law businesses, storefronts, money businesses, employment businesses, food businesses. Every type of business you can think of in life has a cannabis side of it, and that's what we're going to learn about today. Here's another slice of life in the industry. Here's another story to hear. Sit back and learn. We all got a story, and we can all teach each other. Here we go.
Actually, my wife turned me on to the show back in February when there had been some legalization happened in Washington and in Colorado. And I started to have an idea of how I could apply my certain skills that I've acquired over 10 years in the cannabis industry. I was talking with my wife about it. She was doing some research because she was trying to get comfortable with it. And she introduced me to the show because she had found it on some podcast search that she had done. And then I've been listening every week. I've heard most of your shows, I think.
Cool. Well, then you already know what it's all about.
I know what it sounds like on the other end. You know.
Well, I guess this is how the sausage is made, right? Where exactly are you at?
My residence right now is in Newport Beach, California. I've lived in Southern California for about 8 years, and this is where I call home for now. But I am going to be moving to Denver, up near Boulder, in the Broomfield area next month. So some big changes happening.
I'm glad you're coming to Colorado because we need more people coming here that are going to be in the industry.
Unfortunately, it's in November, so...
Oh, well, it's actually not that bad. It doesn't get really bad until January or February. And then the cold weather and the snow and all that comes in. Well, are you coming to start a business?
I am. I've actually been working on starting my business for the last 7 months now. Highest reward, it's just highest reward. It's a company that has a basis in human resources. So it's a professional services consulting firm that is catering itself to transforming and emerging industries, cannabis industry being one of those. You know, what I'm trying to do is help companies grow in that they are utilizing their employees to the maximum potential. So my human resources firm is specializing in compensation, employee rewards, and engagement. That's my target market, and I'm going to be bringing my expertise to create a lasting partnership with the industry, hopefully, so that as my business grows and evolves, the cannabis industry will be, a beneficiary of that. Hopefully, what I can do is create some benchmarks, some industry standards around HR and HR practices for the cannabis industry. What I hope to do is, like I said, create a partnership with the cannabis industry in that we will together evolve and create a more modern and robust industry.
Why did you decide to focus on this industry versus other industries? Because I assume, I've been involved a little bit with the understanding of recruiting and employment agencies. There's some good money there across the board. What is your specific interest in cannabis?
Cannabis it's a great opportunity to modernize and to evolve a business to go from the shadows into the light. And, when I say that, it's been around and existed in the shadows for, over 75 years. And, now that it's been legalized, there's a lot of regulation that comes with that. There's opportunities to work with these businesses to help them grow and make the industry the best that it can be. And I chose it just because when I was in college, it was right during the .com boom. I said to myself, if there's any opportunity out there like this, I'm not going to pass it up. So I've worked for 10 years in corporate America. I've worked for 2 Fortune 500 companies and also for another human resource consulting firm. I've seen what a big difference great employees make. And, what I hope to do is provide that sort of information, whether that's data, advice, guidance, to businesses to get the most potential out of their employees and retain those employees and keep them engaged.
If I'm understanding right, are you working with only the employer side or with both employees and employees, helping both sides understand how to work within a cannabis industry, find quality talents, and
Sure.
and still have an administrative structure? Where exactly are you coming in on the specific angle?
So I'd be working with business owners themselves as a consultant capacity, more so as an analyst. A lot of what I'm doing is founded in data. So there's going to be a series of surveys that are going to be coming out 2015, which will be benchmarks for common jobs in the cannabis industry. Those are your bud tenders, your growers, your chemists and scientists research scientists that exist in labs for testing. I think if I focused on those jobs themselves and lay the foundation for the rest of the industry, I'll be at a better point to approach the partnership in the industry and a collaborative engagement with the industry.
There's a big workforce out there, and there's soon to be an even bigger business industry to support that workforce. Somebody's got to be in the middle.
So there's a difference though that I want to make clear. So I'm not really a talent acquisitions firm. I'm not a staffing firm.
Right.
What those folks are doing is they're filling a need that a business had. Usually it's a short-term need, whether that's trimmers or bud tenders, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And up to this time, from what I understand, they've been dictating wages in the industry. And what I'm bringing is an objective look at salary, benefits, and other engagement and employee rewards type data, and bring that to business owners so that they can make solid business decisions based on what is the market competitive rate for a bud tender, or are my benefits competitive with my competitor down the street.
This is actually an interesting topic I've been interested in. I'm very curious to what type of information you have your fingers on, because I've wanted to know what is the actual average wage of people working in centers, dispensaries. Mm-hmm. What is really going on? Because from the rough peripheral view I get, people are not making a lot of money. The majority of people hired are fairly in the minimum wage range. A lot of people who are hired for not necessarily a specific skill or talent, but more, the cashier type role. There's a lot of questions and debate with where is the industry growing that provides real wealth and growth of jobs that are beyond just minimum wage. Mm-hmm. You see this a lot where, a McDonald's or a Walmart comes to a community and claims that they're providing all these jobs, but they're all minimum wage jobs where people don't, it's not really supporting society. So what information do you have about some hard facts? What's actually going on?
Well, it's funny because that's actually where I started in this whole thing is, I wanted to understand what's a basic wage for a bud tender. And I've spent the last several months going around Southern California to different dispensaries and asking those types of questions, asking them what keeps you engaged, what keeps you here, simple questions like that, and just slowly been trying to hear what employees are saying about their current situation and their pay. And I think it echoes what you said earlier, your sentiments about, McDonald's offering, they're hiring more people, but are they giving a living wage? Surviving on $11 an hour, it's hard to do,
I think McDonald's would be a hugely popular company if they were paying $11 an hour. They pay probably somewhere between $7.50 and $8.50.
Sure.
Per average employee. Maybe 11 would be a manager or somewhere.
Well, it's got probably have to be at least $8 in most states, but it's definitely something that is being heard in the industry. At least my ad hoc market research that I've been doing. I've been scouring the internet. I probably have one of the most robust lists of dispensaries in Colorado. I think I've spent a lot of time because you're technically not allowed to mine data from Google, so it's hard to get information from Weed Maps and Leafly. It's only people who sign up. So I've been scouring addresses for dispensaries and phone numbers and contacts, building my client list of potential customers. So
you have just a contact database?
It's just a contact database at this point. I've gone to Denver, I believe 3 or 4 times now, and each time I've gone to some of the bigger recreational dispensaries that I could that were close to me, and asked them the same sort of questions. And what I had heard is that most of them pay between $10.50 and $11.50 as a starting out bud tender. As you grow in the organization, as a bud tender, get more seasoned, I think it tops out, I would say, at the $20 range. But there's no real structure behind that. So that's one thing that Highest Reward would help an organization do, is help them manage their compensation practices, give employees the incentives to excel, go above and beyond, that sort of thing. Most of them they do offer health benefits, but that's one thing that I would survey is to see prevalence of what kind of benefits do they offer, what kind of other incentives are given to their employees. Just collecting that general information. From what I'm hearing, I actually went to the first ever cannabis job fair that was held at the Open Vape headquarters in Denver. That was in February, I think.
Okay.
So
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was about 1,200 people who showed up. So I waited in line for 2 hours and got into the building, and they had probably 25 different companies in there, from dispensaries to tourist companies to temp agencies. And so I went around to each of the dispensaries in there and asked them the same sort of questions. Then the prevalent thing that I heard was we usually get our salary guidelines from temp agencies, which to me is just a conflict of interest because they get paid based upon the salaries of the people that they place. Right. Usually that's how they get paid.
Or take a wage off of the top of.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they have an incentive to inflate or deflate wages. So it's really not an objective party. So that's what really I'm trying to bring is more clarity to business owners around pay practices, benefits practices, and ultimately, what they can do to make their employees happy, make them engaged, and keep them around.
This is more of a corporate structure, looking at the industry, larger businesses, creating an infrastructure, HR infrastructure. What about the individual? What is out there for the individual entrepreneur?
You probably, I think what you're asking, I can relate to just in the recent news, the marketing firm Cannabis. It's an entrepreneur startup. 2 young females started up this marketing firm. They've been catering to the cannabis industry, creating marketing materials, websites, etc. The New York Times did a story on them, and they had some remarks in there that alienated some of the traditional cannabis businesses. So not the newcomers, okay? I think you can agree that there's kind of 2 camps.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
There's definitely multiple camps that I've seen amongst those emerging, even amongst flower versus dabbing. There's many camps that I see emerge. I see the attitude.
Okay, well, and I'm specifically talking about so there's dispensaries that have been around since medical days. So the state of Colorado gave a grace period or buffer period that new entrants into the industry could not enter the industry for a certain amount of time. And I think it's October. Beginning of October was the deadline. So now there's all these new companies that are going to come, that are starting up dispensaries that are joining the industry. So anyway, so Cannabrand, it's a startup catering to the cannabis industry. And they made some remarks that alienated what would be the traditional traditional cannabis industry. There was some remarks about bringing them from the dark to the light, or modernizing, or taking them out of the back alley.
Like they're saying before it was an underground black market type thing.
Right.
That they need to come out and now have a storefront and put up banners and business cards.
Yeah, and it's also appealing to a different audience, a more soccer mom type audience.
That would be a good name of a strain, though.
Soccer mom. Definitely. Fly off the shelves. What they did is they had some remark that had been perceived as disrespectful to the traditional cannabis industry. And what I would say to other entrepreneurs is you need to be careful about what your intentions are. And if your intentions are to come in the industry and just barrel over everybody and bulldoze everybody, then may that be your intentions. You need to be sensitive to that traditional cannabis industry. You can do that as well as cater to new businesses that are emerging or coming in. And this is just specifically as a professional services firm.
In the area you're at, is there a high competitive environment? I mean, here in Denver, surprisingly, the competition amongst dispensaries is not as intense as you would think. It's more of a collaborative effort. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of collaboration going on behind the scenes with lobbying and legislation, and a lot in front of the scenes with cross-promotion and referrals and the whole deal. What's the environment like where you're at?
Well, Southern California, it is definitely different than Denver when it comes to dispensaries working together. My experience here, it's been similar to what you would perceive as the LA lifestyle. It's very flashy, media-related, social media, who has the most likes, who has the most followers. Definitely not a collaborative nature, which I hope to benefit from in Denver and in Colorado, being that collaborative nature, so that, I'm seen as a partner with all dispensaries. I'm not choosing favorites. I'm not choosing one or the other, but I'm giving objective information and advice to all cannabis business owners.
Have you already started to make connections and sales calls prior to your move?
I haven't made any sales calls. I have, like I said earlier, I've attended a couple events, professional networking events in Denver, and just have made some contacts that way. But really, I'm hoping this to be a grassroots effort, and it's really doing with a limited budget. This day and age, you can do a lot of things electronically. So, I hope to leverage technology to collect all this information.
Will it be a virtual business?
The business will be virtual in that I'll sell my products online, but I'll also sell my consulting services, and whether that's an hourly rate or by project, it really depends upon the situation.
Will you have physical address and office somewhere, or will it be...
I'll be based at home at first, but eventually I'll try to get an office if needed. Might be just my car. All other entrepreneurs and what advice I could give them, I think, or... Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you're coming out here, you're going to starting up basically from scratch, right? Transplanting from California to Colorado with not a lot of familiarity with Colorado, right? You're kind of jumping out on a leap of faith here and going into this?
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely an understatement. I don't have any family there. I've got a couple friends who I haven't seen in a long time, and we've connected with them. So that was kind of neat. I quit my job on October 1st, so I've been doing this full time. I'm ready to make a run at it.
You quit corporate type job?
Yes.
Good salary, benefits, the whole deal?
The whole deal.
And you did that prior to actually having an established business somewhere else. So you must be very prepared and confident in this. What type of money are we talking about? Do you need to get a business where it's just you and your wife starting up initially out of the home? Is it thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars?
Well, luckily for me, I don't have to buy products. I don't have to create anything. There's not that cost. And really, it's a matter of website. It's getting your business registered. It's all those sorts of things. And the biggest expense is your time. Because, I've been spending 8 months or so, 2-3 hours a night. It takes a toll when, all weekends you're spending working on this stuff. But now that I don't have a corporate job, I can spend my normal business hours doing this. So it's actually refreshing.
What I'm trying to get at is to help somebody understand, somebody else who's maybe in a similar position, thinking about going into it, both feet, both hands, head first, and they're thinking, how much do I need? 3 months, 6 months, a year, 10,000, 50,000, 2,000. Help somebody have an understanding. If you're going to jump in head first and quit your job, here's maybe what you might want to come prepared for.
I'd say a minimum 6 months savings to cover your every living cost that you have. Realistically, if you're going to quit your day job and go head first into this, I'd have at least 6 months of living expenses saved up. And that's full living expenses, housing, car payments if you have them, food.
That's to cover you.
That's to cover me and my family.
What about to cover those initial expenses to get the business going? So 6 months is to cover you. How many more months and how much more money to get the business going before you have enough sales to actually supplement what you've saved?
For me, I set aside close to $3,000 to start it up. I haven't spent close to half of that.
And that was to cover things like what you mentioned, website registration, various startup expenses.
Right. Yeah. So when I get to Denver, it's going to be, mileage on my car. It's going to be gas. It's going to be, marketing materials, that sort of thing. But I can't put a number on it, to be honest. It really depends on the business. What I've set aside is reasonable for a individual going out on their own to bring their expertise to an industry as a consultant. I've referenced that with some of my colleagues, and they've said that that's reasonable. I think it really depends on the business. If you had to ramp up, create 50,000 widgets, it's a whole new ballgame.
Right. A whole team of employees and offices and the whole deal.
Right.
On that. Is the strategy to get here, use that contact list you have and just start making the calls and the appearances and just going out there and shaking hands and meeting people?
Yeah, that's the goal. I've spent quite a bit of time creating a contact list. What I hope to do is, like I said earlier, is spread the information about Highest Reward and specifically the surveys that we're conducting. I mean, the information that we're collecting via word of mouth, grassroots type effort. At this point, I'm not really worried about making money. I'm actually going to give away the information that I collect for free. Anybody who participates in my surveys will get the results for free. And if you don't participate, then you pay a fee. And the fee is really for my time compiling, collecting, and creating a report that is digestible.
So you're going to make yourself an information business, collecting information that you can leverage to sell your services or some other type of product?
Yeah, it's consulting services. I'll conduct a survey that looks at the different levels of a bud tender. And you want to compare yourself and how you pay and how you structure your pay compared to what is the industry standard as established by the surveys that we're going to conduct. Then, that would be a customized report, customized service. And I'd charge a fee for that, whether it's just by the report or by an hourly wage. If you want me to come in there and interview employees, you're having some retention issues, employees are leaving, you don't know why, I'm more than happy to come in there and interview employees, talk through the whole customer experience and see where I can leverage my 10 years of experience. I implemented 2 global employee recognition and engagement programs at 2 very large Fortune 500 companies. I have experience in the employee experience. I'm able to tell and understand from the employee's perspective what keeps them around, what keeps them engaged, and what keeps them productive, and ultimately what makes them excel at customer service. So those are the things that I hope to gain and provide back to the industry via the surveys and Highest Reward.
All things that are needed in any business, regardless of what the product is. Whether literally selling widgets or you're selling buds. I have the opportunity to visit a few locations, and I got to say the industry is lacking a little bit of customer service. It's lacking just some basic cordial mannerisms.
I totally agree.
It might be the demographic of employees. I mean, just that idea of who's actually available in the workforce. They might not be people from a big background of how to represent yourself when in public and how to interact with people and how to be in a role of customer, client, retailer type roles. So I don't know, maybe the whole industry has a little bit of learning to do. And once more people come into the workforce from different genres and corporations and backgrounds, maybe that'll change. Hopefully that'll change.
There's a great article in the Cannabis that talked about the bud tenders and where have they all gone. It's a really great article.
In what sense?
Just lacking in customer service, the personal touch. When somebody walks in the door, you want to create an experience for them. Some dispensaries in Denver have taken, in Colorado have taken the hands-off approach where they put everything laid out nicely in a large room, just like you go into an Apple store. There's tablets you can look at and peruse at your own free will. So that's one side of the house. And then the other side of the house are those that I think are more traditional in the sense that they are rooted in the medical cannabis industry. So they're looking for that one-on-one personal understanding, the catering to specific ailments, the high knowledge about products. When you talk about highest reward and how we can approach that situation, so when you have a high hands-off atmosphere, you really want somebody who excels at transactions. But when you want that high touch, you want somebody with a lot of skills. Somebody who's been in the industry for a while, who understands strains and their pluses and minuses and their different effects on individual ailments. If they move to a different dispensary, the patients or the customers will follow that bud tender. I've heard of situations like that. Highest reward comes in, and a business asks, how do I retain this individual? He's going to move, or he's going to go to a different company. How much of a raise should I give him, or what is this other company giving him that I don't offer? Usually people leave because of, number one, pay, number two, their manager, number three, it's usually their lack of personal growth, so they feel stuck. And lastly, if they're overworked, if they're just being asked to do too much all the time, and it's usually because they're understaffed or there's inefficiencies. So people will leave for all these reasons. So what can a business do? And that's where Highest Rewards as a consultant firm comes in, and hopefully will provide some useful and actionable advice to companies who are looking to know, how do I keep the best and the brightest here with me?
I mean, all those items you mentioned, I'm just thinking back to all the shitty jobs I've worked in my life. And you
right.
hit pretty much on the head every single reason for hating your job, wanting to leave a company, or anything else. Obviously, everybody wants to make more money, but when you're in a workplace, you just want to feel like you're contributing to something. You're making something, you're doing something, you're being creative. You're not just simply standing behind a cash register and just taking orders and giving out receipts. You're actually part of something. I look at dispensaries and I try to count, what are the jobs here? What can people really do? Assuming they're dispensaries that are involved in growing, which most of them have secondary places where there's grow operations going on. But if you're not a grower, what opportunity is in the industry for you other than standing behind a counter and just being a cashier?
There's plenty of jobs out there that I would say are more manual or technical. So you have grow operations, and there's a series of kind of laborer job levels that would move on up into the master grower, which is your high-level grower who usually manages one large or multiple facilities, sets the schedules, sets the timetables, the nutrients. Those are the top-level guys. There's definitely a talent gap there. So there's not enough master growers. In the grow operation, you have your laborers. Inside dispensaries, you'll have your normal retail folks. You usually have a retail manager. You'll have somebody who's in charge of operations. They'll do finance. They'll do HR. They'll probably help out in marketing. Then you'll have your owner. You'll have your production staff. So typically, Denver or Colorado, they have the seed to sale. For a time, you had to grow 70%. So that's not the case anymore. You can wholesale out any product that you grow now. But for a time, there was a streamlined process, basically a manufacturing line from the harvest to the harvest to table. It's the same sort of agricultural concept. So all the jobs in between are very similar to agricultural and farm jobs.
And we'll probably see a good increase in that, especially as hemp takes off. We'll see more manufacturing and those type of jobs emerge. And hopefully as individuals like yourself keep coming with more human resources and infrastructure and all the things that support the industry and all its little pillars, the industry will create more and more jobs. As I've said many times before, anything you do anywhere else, you can do it in cannabis.
Sure.
So there's literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of jobs for cannabis, because whatever exists out there in the world can easily just be focused in, right, niched in on cannabis. So if you want to be an accountant, you can be a cannabis accountant.
Sure.
You want to be an artist, just be a cannabis artist. Whatever it is you want to do, if you just focus on cannabis, that's literally a job that exists.
Yeah.
So, I think what you're doing is on track. You're probably going to set the pace for other individuals coming to the state.
Yeah, I think you made a great point about they're all going to need accountants. They're all going to need marketing folks. They're all going to need HR, for example. So your mainstream finance and accounting HR jobs, those jobs are coming. They're very few and far between right now. As dispensaries and as companies pull together and start forming larger organizations, you're going to see a lot more administrative overhead that they'll need to manage. We can provide that sort of data, but is the need out there right now for how much is a 10-year accountant worth? It's out there. I can get it, but I don't think it's a common job. So right now, Highest Reward is focusing on those pillar jobs that are in the industry, those foundational jobs. Your grower, your bud tender, scientist, chemist. Through those jobs, start to build the foundation for a larger view at wages and benefits and what is competitive marketplace practice for HR services.
You know what I would like to ask from you, or see if it's something you could fit into maybe once a month, do a little 2-minute segment on the update of what's going on with employment, with some of those just the stats you're collecting, the information you're working with. If we could do a little employment minute, what's
that'd be great.
Yeah, what's the average salary this month, or what's the job up, job down type report, some type of jobs report maybe, or an employment report, or maybe like a local economic report, something along those lines.
Sure.
Because you're going to be already right there in the middle of it, and you're already going to be collecting the information. So, it would literally be once a month, 10, 15 minutes. We could jump on the phones, record something like what we're doing right now, and get a little 2-5-minute thing out there, and just once a month keep updating it with what's going on out there with wages and everything else, because I don't think people know that kind of information. And I think people should know for both sides. Both sides need to negotiate from a point of knowledge, and in general, just information should be transparent in general. I'm just a believer in transparency all around. So I think you'd be a good person to do that if you could work that into your schedule.
Sure, I would make that possible. I think you hit it the nail on the head. It's having that clarity and having your audience understand what is the employment what does the employment background and the landscape look like. I think that's a valuable thing to have, especially for entrepreneurs as they're coming in here and trying to approach the industry and figuring out what's my place and how do I fit in. I definitely make that a.
When are you planning on being here?
Mid-November.
Okay.
Yep. Let's
do this. Let's wrap it up. And hold on though. Before we wrap it up, do you have any contact information you want to throw out? Your webpage is not quite ready yet, but do you want to send people to the webpage still, or Facebook or something? What are you? How are you communicating with people?
I have Twitter at Highest Reward, the LinkedIn Highest Reward page, and then you can just email me at info@highestreward.com. That's the best way to get in touch. If you're a cannabis related business, specifically involved in the production and sale of the product, and you want to be part of a compensation survey to understand jobs, shoot me an email and we'll be in touch. But I'm definitely making my rounds when I get there. I've got quite a plan laid out in front of me.
Excellent, man. Well, I appreciate you spending the time this afternoon to tell us all about you. I look forward to actually developing this little monthly segment. I think that would be a great contribution to the show.
Yeah, I'd enjoy doing it.
And we'll hook up and
all right.
Get some Colorado pizza and Colorado beer.
Sounds like a great idea.
Colorado smoke, and we'll have an evening.
All right, sounds good to me. There's a lot of good microbreweries in Colorado.
There's a lot. I'm not sure if it's the leading state but there is a lot. So it'll be good times. Just keep me in touch.
That's my secondary target for the same sort of concept.
Is the microbrew?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of brewers that start out of their garage. I know a few that are working out of their garage right now. And if you want to do a cannabis brew, I'll put the show name on it and we'll sell it on the website as the CCP Radio Beer.
I think they have a wine. They're doing something here in Southern California. They're hyping a cannabis infused red wine.
Well,
I thought that was bizarre.
I mean, either or. I think beer would be better, personally.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I would have to taste it to see what the taste is like. But I think beer would definitely be better because beer, you expect flavors to be of something. Wine, you kind of expect the wine flavor. So unless the flavor was totally masked, where there was no flavor change, I think beer would be a better.
Yeah. Well, hops come from the same lineage as cannabis, so
all from the same family.
Yeah, they're very similar.
That's why I tell beer drinkers when they're against cannabis is that they're secretly already consuming. Well, that sounds great, man. I look forward to it, and I really look forward to developing this little segment to work into the show.
That'd be awesome.
Think of a title or something, along those lines. Some type of report, or I don't know, economic report or jobs report, or I don't know. See what you can come up with, and then I'll help you develop it.
All right. Sounds great.
All right. You have a good weekend.
All right. See you. All right.
Thanks for listening to this week's show. Make sure to come back next week. We're going to have more guests lined up, speaking with dispensary owners, growers, business owners. Make sure to follow us on all of the social media, Facebook, Google+. You can listen to our shows live from the website or your preferred listening platform. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, even YouTube, all under the same name, CannabisCommunityProject.com. We'll see you next week.